It'd be like a sprint from
The
Sarah's
next item
people.
is item number 20, application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, docket number 15-6942, block 233, lot 8, 133 Grand Street, in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District extension, a federal-style dwelling built circa 1822 with later alterations, and this is an application to replace storefront infill.
LCC, right? Yeah. Bob LCC. He's not stepping down anytime soon.
Commissioners, Edith Bellinghausen, Reservation Staff. It's 133 Grand Street, also known as 1921 Crosby Street. It's on the southwest corner, southeast corner of Crosby and Grand, Soho Extension. The application today is to replace storefronts at both the Grand and Crosby Street elevations. The building, as it is today, was modified over time. It actually was built in the 1820s as a federal-style dwelling, then had added a fourth story and rear addition sometime in the mid-1800s. At that time, the ground floor was also made commercial. As I said, application is to replace the storefronts. Currently, there's a single tenant and fronts here at Grand. So existing conditions you'll see are generally a non-historic storefront infill at Grand that wraps around to Crosby. Along Crosby is a number of just punched openings. The applicant conducted some probes, and along Grand, we found some existing cast iron columns that will be restored. And then along Crosby, it's a mix of masonry, of plywood, etc. They are modifying, of note, they're removing some of the historic masonry that exists along Crosby to create these new storefront openings. Here shown the proposed conditions and elevation. You'll see the columns here. They're going to be freestanding. The storefront infill is being replaced behind that. The framing will be aluminum. There'll be some molding profiles. The building is currently painted, so the masonry portions will be finished, will be painted. The storefront itself will be finished in black, as will the columns. The applicant is also proposing to install a new cornice, which is seen here in the historic photo, restoring that feature. And then finally, we have some details in plan of the mullion, some of the framing, and lastly, the proposal also involves the addition of stairs at these locations here, finishing diamond plate with a wrought iron railing. The architect is here to answer questions and elaborate.
Hi, good morning. My name is Steve Wygota. First, I want to thank Edith, Sarah, and the staff, and of course, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
My one and only opportunity to thank you all. Thank you. So we've taken, a somewhat worn-out building that's taken, as Edith said, it was originally built smaller. There were major renovations to it, so we tried to kind of, make something nice out of it. So, I don't really have much more to say.
Okay, questions here? Nothing? Let's see. Community board, hold on, 133 Grand. Yeah, here we go. Uh-oh. Okay, well, let me read what they said. Whereas the rhythm of the storefront on both facades captures what one would expect in a building of this style, but whereas the bulkhead should be a uniform height from grade level at each window, and whereas the quality of the infill is clearly low end. This is, this storefront could be around for 100 years. This is all in the whereas clause. We would prefer to see a higher quality of design and less the presence of unexceptional materials. For instance, the proposed doors are cheap aluminum, not typical at all of the wooden doors so typical of the historic district. Now therefore be resolved, Community Board 2 recommends denial of the application primarily due to the, what they call low-end materials and design put into the proposal.
Yeah,
Response
we-
or
Yes,
comment?
certainly, yes.
Yeah.
We've actually agreed and we worked with Edith. We did lower the bulkhead, so it steps down as it proceeds. And we did change it from brick to aluminum. We had some paneling in it to add some more creativity to it. The doors are still aluminum, but the whole front is aluminum, so we couldn't see doing doors and wood and then aluminum storefront. But we have nice details around the aluminum frame.
All right, I think that in general, the application is a good one. I think that the retention and restoration of the columns along the short side of the building is going to be nice. I think that the use of molded aluminum elements will make a straight junky storefront into something a tad better, yet durable. I think that the doors should be brought up to the level of the storefront. They are kind of generic and rather, they look like abuse-resistant doors or of some kind. They don't even have, you know, I think one can improve the doors with the staff. I think that the cornice restoration is great, but I would suggest the applicant look with the staff. For some reason, the pattern of the cornice looks off to me. It doesn't look like it goes with the cornice on the top. It's hard, there's clearly no evidence of it from the photograph, but I mean, the applicant might look with the staff on picking from the catalog a different one that seems to suit the style of the building a bit better.
Yeah, I think they should work with the staff for the doors, but otherwise, it's fine.
Yeah, obviously the applicant can work with the staff on this minor detailing, and it may just be the rendering that's not clear, but and with regard to the cornice, and as far as the doors, yes, to work with the staff on that, but I think the design is fine. It's excellent.
Okay, same story when we are able to take action, which hopefully will be shortly, we will do that. And stay tuned, we'll close the hearing now. The motion and a second without objection, the hearing is closed. We're going to break now till 1 o'clock. Thank you. In the camera here.
All right, next is number 20, an application for a certificate of appropriateness in the Borough of Manhattan, docket number 15-6942, block 233, lot 8, 133 Grand Street, also known as 19 to 21 Crosby Street in the Soho Cast Iron Historic District Extension. A federal-style dwelling built circa 1822 with later alterations, and the application is to replace storefront infill.
Afternoon, Commissioners, Edith Bellingham, Preservation staff. Application today is to replace storefront infill at both the Grand and Crosby Street elevations. This is a building that was modified several times throughout the 1800s with the introduction of commercial first floor in the late part of the 19th century, and then seen in this text photo was retained, and then seen here in the 80s text photo has been modified, reflecting the change over time. Existing conditions shown here, there's a single tenant that fronts at Grand and Crosby with a non-historic storefront infill along Crosby Street, as seen here and as seen here in elevation. It's a number of punched openings that will be modified into 4 storefront openings, as seen here. Proposed elevation does involve the removal of some masonry. There were probes conducted at the existing storefront, and at Grand Street there was 4 existing cast iron columns that were discovered that will be restored. The front part of the proposed storefront will be recessed with freestanding columns. Here is the proposed conditions. Again, in elevation, the applicant is proposing a new cornice to be installed to match the condition at the text photo. It'll be an aluminum storefront infill with panel detail and molding detail. And details available here, finished with painted red where the masonry is to match the painted facade of the building, and black for the storefront columns and the cornice. Consensus earlier today was approval. That was contingent on working with the staff to add some kick plate panel detail to the doors and also to restudy the cornice design.
And that will be done.
Yes.
with the review.
Yes, yeah.
Good. Okay, you did a great job of summarizing it, first of all. And secondly, as did all the summaries that have taken place here, it's breathtaking. And I thank you for all that. And it's fine and it's appropriate. Okay.
In the matter of a certificate of appropriateness, 133 Grand Street, AKA 1921 Crosby Street, Soho, Cast Iron Historic District. Application is to replace storefront infill. I recommend approval, finding that the removal of the existing storefront and signage will not eliminate historic fabric, that the restoration of the historic cast iron columns at the Grand Street facade will preserve these significant features, that the addition of the cornice above the ground floor at the Grand Street and Crosby Street elevations will restore this missing architectural feature and return the building closer to its historic appearance, that the configuration of the proposed storefront at Grand Street featuring large display windows, transoms, and a bulkhead is in keeping with historic storefronts found in buildings of this age and type in this historic district, that historically building facades and storefront infill within this historic district were altered over time, and the proposed alterations will be consistent with these interventions and accretions that characterize this historic district, reflecting the area's layer of development and mixed use. That the modified storefront bays along Crosby Street will create a regular bay arrangement at the ground floor and will be in keeping with the scale of the building and the commercial character of the streetscape. That the materials, details, and painted finish of the storefront infill will be harmonious with the building's facade and the streetscape. That the proposed signage will be well scaled to the storefronts, and that the cumulative amount of signage will not overwhelm the building or the streetscape, and that the applicant will work with the staff to make sure that the details to the doors and the cornice are appropriate to the district, and will restudy on the door surround.
All in favor? Aye, opposed? That's approved. What happened?